Yeah. I think it's good dinner.
All right, I got the thumbs up from Carrie. So welcome everyone, good evening. Monday, the 8th of April, Board of Agenda for the Milton School District. I will read our vision and mission and then we'll be off and running here. So as usual, the vision of our school district is that we believe in opportunities, achievement, and community for all. And the mission that supports our vision is that the School District of Milton, in partnership with our community, prepare our students for achievement and lifetime readiness by providing opportunities for all. And on that note, I will call to order the Board of Education meeting and invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags are as you kiss in the corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Rich, are you aware of any changes we need to make to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Dave's motion is seconded by Rick to approve our agenda the way it is. Questions on it? All in favor of approval, please signify with aye. Aye. And opposed? That clearly passes. The minutes from the previous board meeting are in board docs for your review.
I move to approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on March 11th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. We'll give Rick's motion seconded by Tracy to approve our minutes. Questions on the minutes from anyone? All in favor of approval, please signify with aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That clearly passes. Vouchers customarily follow. Letter E here, which are also in board docs.
I'll move to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $1,283,150.49 as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. John's motion is seconded by Dave to approve our checking vouchers in the amount E enumerated. Does anyone have questions on those? All in favor of approval, please signify with aye. Aye. And opposed? That clearly passes. We are up to public comment. We have a community resident here that wants to address us. Welcome up to the podium, Terry McCann.
Hello, I'm Terry McCann, former Milton Redmond, the class of 1973. 15 months ago, in January of 2023, I came before you and suggested that the Milton School Board vote to change the name of the athletic field at Milton High School from the Carl F. Anderson Field to the Carl F. Anderson Field at the Jerry Schlemm Stadium. 2 months ago, at your February 2024 board meeting, you voted unanimously to make the change for my suggestion. I wanted to come here personally tonight and thank you for making this name change. I know that Jerry Schlemm is both honored and humbled by your action. Jerry has been inducted into 5 different athletic halls of fame. But I know he feels that having the Milton High School football stadium named after him is the biggest honor of all. Besides thanking you, I want to publicly thank Mr. Jeremy Billhorn for his work behind the scenes he did the past 15 months to get the name change done. Being a teacher at the School District of Beloit for 34 years, I know that making this name change takes a lot of work behind the scenes to get this done. So Mr. Billhorn, thank you. Speaking of Mr. Billhorn, he called me a couple weeks ago requesting me to help raise money for new signs at the Jerry Schlemm Stadium. Since it was my idea, I thought it was only fair that I completely pay for the new signs at the stadium and not the School District of Milton taxpayers. Therefore, so I provide Mr. Billhorn with a large personal check to cover all the expenses of the new signs. I look forward to the dedication ceremony of the Carl F. Anderson Field at the Jerry Schlemm Stadium at the first Milton football game of the 2024 football season. And once again, thank you very much for making this name change. 2 minutes and 18 seconds.
One quick comment, that donation can be found in the agenda in the gifts and donations under 5B.
All right, and that was the only speaker we had for this evening. Thank you, Mr. McKeon. Superintendent update, Rich, Red Hawk highlights.
Yeah, we have a couple different things that I want to highlight today. We are celebrating today's eclipse with some learning opportunities for students. So many teachers have incorporated that into their lessons at each of our schools. We want to thank some parent groups that donated viewing glasses for students for the eclipse. Today is the kickoff for National Library Week, so we'll be celebrating that all week this week. In our libraries at each of our schools, our library media technology specialists work hard to provide opportunities for our students. So we're celebrating with them and thanking them for their work here during National Library Week. Milton East second grader, Isla Labansky, submitted some artwork to the Wisconsin Arts Educators Association Youth Art Show, and her work was one of the pieces selected from across the state to be highlighted, and Isla has received the Royal Brush Elementary School Award, and her artwork is being displayed in Madison. So congratulations to Isla and to Ms. Scott, her art teacher. We received a generous grant from the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. The high school STEM wing is going to be featuring a new state-of-the-art Boss table, CNC plasma table, and a Hypertherm PowerMax 45XP plasma cutter. Don't ask me what those things do, because they're cool. I'm going to need a display on those. It is cutting-edge equipment that's really going to allow our students to learn about real-world industry applications in our Fab Lab at Milton High School. And special thanks to technology and engineering instructor Mason Pouch, who's instrumental in getting that grant. And we're also proud to announce that all of our 4K through 6 schools have been officially designated Project Adam Heart Safe schools. We have a dedication to ensuring a heart-safe environment for all of our students and staff. And we want to thank our 4-6 district nurse, Melissa Barrett, and our health aides for the roles that they've played in earning that designation for our schools. Our spring sports are underway, and we had some Red Hawk track and field athletes take part in the indoor state championship this past Saturday at UW Whitewater. Caitlin Zingsheim placed 12th in the state in the shot put, and Ethan Mitchell competed in a number of events, but he finished 3rd place in the long jump, 5th place in the triple jump, and 7th place in the 60-meter hurdles. So congratulations to our state indoor track meet qualifiers, and we're hoping for some nice weather over the next few weeks for all of our spring athletics.
Questions for Rich?
Just a comment, Mr. Dolhor, if there's ever an opportunity to show off that new gear, I'm sure some more would love to come. When do you have it up and running and all that good stuff?
Give us a month, but we're gonna get it.
Whenever, even if it's next school year.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to see that stuff, because it is.
It is. All right, anybody else? Okay, thank you, Rich. All right, since our last board meeting, we've had a couple committees that have been busy with normal things that they do. First of those is Rick's going to give us an update on the HR.
Okay, thanks, Joe. The HR committee met last month on March 20th. First item on our agenda was benefits advisory group updates. We had a meeting with the benefits advisory group on March 13th. At that meeting, the topics that we had discussed included the HR team shared a summary of the December 13th, 2023 and the December 24th, 2024 benefits advisory group meetings. It was shared that as of February 29th of this year, Dean had confirmed that the school district of Milton staff wellness visits had reached 71%, achieving the wellness visit goal. The Benefits Advisory Group members were thanked for their help and support in communicating this message out to all the staff. There was also an update on the Flex Medical, Flex Dependent, HRA, HSA, and COBRA vendor. The district is in discussions regarding the termination of its agreement with Diversified Benefit Services for next year. Administration has been evaluating vendor quotes from USI. Prospective vendors are expected to offer a Flex Medical debit card and maintain the existing services at a more cost-effective rate. Additionally, the transition is anticipated to bring about an enhancement in customer service compared to our current vendor. Al Yeager, who works with USI, our insurance consultant, shared that Milton's enrollment participation is not out of line with what he sees in other districts. Dependent care is very expensive, and some participants don't feel that the annual maximum amount, which is currently $5,000, is worth the effort. Also, as districts transition from HRAs to HSAs, use of the Flex Medical declines as a result of that. The HR payroll teams have met with Employee Benefits Corporation, a prospective vendor. We have discussed our needs, how the transitions would go, as well as talking with other school districts that use this vendor. Communication to staff in the transition from Diversified Benefit Services to EBC will begin in late April. Any questions or comments on that topic? Chris, you have anything to add?
I do not.
Okay. Next topic was the discussion on the employee health insurance. And there is there's something in board docs. I think this is, Chris, is this the same thing that was shared at the last meeting?
It was at the last HR committee meeting, correct,
Okay.
on March 20th.
And then in there, you'll see the, so the board has not seen this?
They've seen a few slides, but not this presentation.
Okay, all right.
So on that second, Carly, if you can forward through to this right here with the priorities and considerations. This is new. There's the, just outlining the school district of Milton's process that we use data to drive sustainable decisions. We review the Badger Conference and Rock County school districts when looking at insurance benefits. Medical and insurance costs continue to rise considerably faster than inflation. Benefits make up 22% of the district's overall budget, which for the 23-24 year is 11.2 million. And this is a multi-year data review. If you recall back with the HR committee and the Board of Education in January and February of 23, we talked about the consistent percentages for school district of Milton certified and support staff. And for the beginning of the 23-24 year, the certified staff were moved from 12.6% to 15%, and the support staff were moved from 6%, paying 6% of their premium, their health insurance premium, to 10%. And then at that same time, the wellness incentive was offered to those staff members that had either single or family insurance. If they received their district-sponsored, or they went and received their wellness check, they would get that $200 through payroll for a single plan or $400 for a family plan. So, and the data that we reviewed and shared with the HR committee as well as the board last year and this year shows that the school district of Milton medical benefits are highly competitive in comparison to other districts in the Badger and Rock counties.
Thank you, Chris. I think, yeah, those graphs that the board has seen before.
That is correct.
Correct,
Yes.
yeah, right, okay, thank you.
Yep.
I get confused what we've seen, what we haven't seen.
There's quite a few presentations.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for that. And I think another thing to point out, I think that we've all heard before, but just a reminder, so looking at increases for next year, the total overall cost is going to be just about $430,000 with that 9.9% rate increase. So, and this information was also shared with Benefits Advisory Group at our meeting last month.
And this presentation is available for in open session for the public out on board docs.
Chris, you know, the HRA plan is considerably more expensive. Has there ever been a survey or some measure of outcomes? I mean, at the end of the day, if people are just as satisfied with the care that they're getting in the HSA plan as they are in the HRA plan, I'm just trying to figure out at what number is the additional cost justified? I know the HSA contribution is generous and offsets a considerable amount of the deductible. And so, as I was reviewing the charts, and chart 7 talks about it, is just when we're looking at a 10% increase in overall cost, basically the additional cost in the HRA plan, and then the cost of administering 2 separate plans as opposed to just one plan, are the outcomes measurably different, or considerably different in cost, I guess is the question that I'm trying to ask.
So with the cost of measuring 2 plans or working with 2 plans and administering 2 plans, there really isn't much of a difference on the HR team's work on the payroll side of that work, administering it. It's a very similar process for having 2 plans with 1 plan. So there isn't a huge time savings for moving from 2 to 1.
Okay. For participants, is there any measurable difference in how satisfied they are with their plan between the 2?
So I haven't, the HR team hasn't pooled our staff to see, but we do have a pretty good pulse on the concerns and the questions that come out of the HRA and the HSA. Each plans meet different employees' needs differently. So that's the biggest thing I can share. I haven't heard a lot of concerns one way or the other, and if we do hear of those issues come up, we work with the staff member to help get the resolution for them.
I think one thing that I would add to that is, it's a really good question, and Chris, thanks for providing that information. Every year that we've had the 2 options in place, there's been more and more staff that have moved to the HSA. So we are seeing more interest, both from new people that we've hired and from people who have been on staff that are switching over from the HRA to the HSA. We continue to have conversations and bring to the HR committee options moving forward. We're not recommending removing the HRA option for next year, but it's always something that we want to take a look at to make sure that the money that the district is contributing to employees for their benefits, we want to make sure that both the employees and the district are getting a good bang for their buck for that money. It's $11.2 million, obviously, is a very significant portion of our budget for our overall expenses. So it's worth continuing to take a look at, for sure.
And Dave, we would, just like we're doing with the previous agenda item with the HR committee, looking at the flex medical, flex dependent, HRA, HSA, and COBRA, we would do the same thing with health insurance too, as we work with the HR committee and the board to look at those alternatives.
Okay. Any other questions on this topic?
Just again, a couple things that I want to highlight, just to make sure that both for the board and folks who are listening here in the audience or at home, medical costs, obviously, and medical insurance costs have been rising extremely rapidly, not just for our school district, not just for school districts in general, for individuals, for other businesses that provide medical insurance for the employees. They've been rising at a much faster rate than the CPI, and a much faster rate than the revenue that we're getting from the state. So when we look at how we utilize our available resources, we always have to balance increased costs in one area with decreased costs or decreased expenses in other areas. We've held our benefits as a portion of our overall budget around that 22%, but with the 10% increase or 9.9% increase for next year on our medical insurance costs, that $430,000 or so is again a large bump in our budget for next year. So we have to make sure that we are looking for ways to best balance our available resources and the benefits that we provide for our employees. That's a continuing conversation that we bring to the HR committee and then bring to the board if there are times when we have any recommended changes for the coming year.
That 4:30, that's already set for our extended negotiation, or if there's plan design changes, then that would go down in theory.
That is correct. Right now, we are at 430,000 with how the plans are at right now, going into the 24-25 year. That is without any plan design changes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Rich. I mean, we're seeing it in the private sector as well, the increase in costs. And it's changing the mindset of go to an urgent care, not emergency room, and as the insurance companies continue to lose, they're going to continue to raise premiums. So it's not, again, you're no exception to, corporate America as well.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions? All right, thanks, Chris. I just wanted also to send a shout out to all the members of staff who attended those benefits advisory group meetings. Those are, it's not the most exciting thing after a long day of teaching to come and talk, have a meeting about insurance, but we had some really great meetings this year, so thanks to all the staff departments. That's it, Joe.
Very good. Thank you, Rick. All right, the other committee that met that we'll get a recap from is the Finance Committee, and John will guide us through that.
All right, thank you, Joe. The Finance Committee held a meeting on Wednesday, April 3rd. Although we only had 2 items on the agenda, we still managed to meet for about an hour and 45 minutes. Good reasons, though. The first agenda item was an open session. Rich and Ross shared information on budget planning and community engagement. They shared the layout of the community input sessions. The memo is in board docs, and I believe they will likely discuss that tonight in more detail. Okay. I would also like to encourage all stakeholders to take advantage of the opportunity to participate in these meetings. The next item was an executive session item. This item will be presented to the entire board tonight during the scheduled executive session. Not on the agenda, but I would like to take a moment to thank Dave for his service to the board and participation on the Finance Committee. I appreciate your input and knowledge and hope you will continue to be a strong advocate for the school district of Milton. Yeah. And Rich, if you can make sure he's got the dates for the community input session.
All right, and that's it.
That's it, yeah.
All right, wonderful. We will roll on.
Was there anything that you wanted to share on that topic, Ross, before we move to the next agenda?
Sure. Just real quickly, John introduced the idea about the community engagement sessions. This stems from discussions that Rich and I have been having all year about a need to really educate the community, not just on what school districts do, but how they're funded, what actually your tax bill means when we talk about this stuff in the fall. So it's really more about education of the community on school finance as a whole. And those discussions may lead into more complex topics. We're looking for a back and forth with some people we plan to invite to these meetings. And yes, we hope for more participation and input as we move forward.
And Ross, I'm just going to piggyback on that thought. I've had an opportunity in the past several months to just talk to some community groups that I know you've joined me on some of them as well. And it's interesting when you have an opportunity just to kind of talk about the landscape of how school finance across the state works right now. And just give people an opportunity to kind of be sponge and absorb some information on it and really get some healthy conversations going. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I think the opportunity to just have this conversation in more depth with the public is a great idea. So thank you for suggesting it, and I'm sure it'll be very valuable to folks that want to get involved and learn more.
I'm looking forward to it. Strangely enough, I do actually enjoy talking about it. So I do look forward to it.
I definitely appreciate it, and I think it is necessary. If you look at the election results on the referendums just locally, you do not see that they were very successful. So a lot of education to go out there so folks can understand what the needs are, because I'm sure we're going to have a little bit more of a turnout in November than some of these elections got. So.
And there's no doubt that it's a needlessly complex issue. The more we can explain, the better people can feel better about what's happening.
Well, and just it bears repeating to just capture the memo here. We've got a 3-meeting series that we're proposing of sorts. We're going to reach out to folks and invite kind of a broad cross-section of our community. But what I want to emphasize is that these meetings are open to the public, and we're going to post dates and times, and location is quite likely, well, I won't preface that. We'll pick the proper location, but by all means, if people have any kind of interest, please come. Beyond, we want to reach out and invite folks to maybe not guarantee an audience, but we have to sort of have critical mass. I think several of us on the board that have been through this in any part before, we've got some small audiences. We've done a number, between the board and the admin folks, have done a number of at any point in the past, a referendum presentation of sorts that was to audiences in the handful. And while that's unfortunate, we're going to try and overcome that to the degree we can and get a larger number of folks to hear exactly the situation that we're in, and then maybe even help us aim toward potential solutions, et cetera.
Yes.
So that's the gist of these meetings. So stay tuned. They will be on our website. There will be an easy link there that we can find the dates, times, places, et cetera. So I would encourage folks, I maybe even could jump out and say that we're targeting late May and through June, so not very far down the road. We're going to get some more detail put together, but trust us, folks have been working on this path already, so we're ready to really put it into its final form. So thank you.
Rich, when do you think you'll have the dates set?
Well, we talked about that with the finance committee. One of the things that we were looking at potentially doing was holding them on Monday evenings opposite board meetings. The problem with that in May is that there are 4 Mondays in May, and we typically have our school board meetings on the 2nd Monday and the 4th Monday. The 4th Monday in May is Memorial Day. So one of the things when we get to our upcoming meeting dates, what we've done in the past with that is bump that meeting back 1 day and add it on a Tuesday rather than a Monday. So we'd be looking at a potential regular board meeting on Tuesday, May 28th. And then that meeting in between those 2 weeks on Monday, May 20th, where we're talking to Shana Lewis, who is our legal counsel, and in past years, she's come in and done a board goals and responsibilities session once the new school board is seated. If we want to do that again this year, then that would take out that Monday as a possible day for the focus group too. So one of the things that the finance committee talked about was potentially choosing a different day of the week. And they talked about Wednesdays, but I know, Rick, with you, Wednesday evenings are is that still the case, that that's not a good day?
At that time of the year, that would be okay for me.
It would be okay for
I mean,
you?
don't plan it around me, but I mean, I'm
Well,
just saying that would
that's
work.
kind of what came out of the finance committee too, when I was going to touch base with you to see if, because I know some parts of the year Wednesdays aren't good. So I think what we might look at are doing a series of every other week on Wednesday evenings for the 3 sessions. But I will get that out to folks this week, to board members, and we'll get that posted.
I just want to make sure that.
Is there any concern among board members on utilizing Wednesday evenings at maybe 6:30, a regular board time? And I would say an hour to an hour and a half for each of those sessions.
I think the struggle the finance committee had, or just discussing this topic, was we can find a day that works for the folks in the front of the room here. What we really want to engage are the rest of our community. And I don't know that we'll be able to pick a day that fits everybody. We certainly probably can't. But to the degree we can, we want to get a date that folks can work with, and we just really want to have an active participation. And the other thing is they will not be board meetings per se. They're going to be interactive. You know, we want this as a dialogue. I think town hall meetings are kind of a common way to paraphrase them a little bit, but those of you in the community would remember that we did these in this fashion for our capital referendum, or the lead up to it. We had a number of meetings where we talked about different proposals and layouts and ideas and whatnot, and we had community members there, and just in a very interactive format could ask questions, get answers, or when they ask questions that we didn't have answers to, we certainly can get those and come to the following meeting. That's the idea with this presentation, is to engage folks and not, it'll be a presentation of sorts, and Ross will have a big hand in that, because it's numbers, right? That's what we're talking about, long-range financial planning, so this is numbers. but how those numbers impact the different pieces of our school district will be a big factor in how we look at them now and out into the future. So, at any rate, that's just, I just want to really, we want to make it engaging and something that folks are really interested and attracted to, so.
Joe, just piggybacking on that, one of the things we
We stopped short of doing free beer, so we can't do that, but.
that we had talked about was having just like the format of these meetings is recorded and available to view after the fact, and we're doing something like that as well. So for people who are interested and maybe just simply don't have time on that evening or miss one or two of there's multiples, but the opportunity to go out and get caught up, if you will, it sounds like will exist as well. So.
Yeah, very much so. And it also functions, if you're at the meeting, there will be a large amount of data in different tables and formats and whatever. It's easy enough to absorb if you do this on somewhat of a regular basis. For folks that don't see that all the time, it might not be as easy to absorb, such that we want you to be able to go back to the recorded version and get clarity on something that you didn't understand or whatever. So that's the other function of getting them available for folks that maybe are in person at the meeting and or miss a meeting or whatever. So we just want that whole background piece.
Another advantage to Wednesday evenings is I think typically those are quieter evenings for school activities at least. And as we get into May, we get into some concerts, spring concerts and things at the schools, but I think Wednesdays are usually good evenings to limit the conflicts. And I just want to make sure there's clarity around Joe's free beer comment. That didn't mean that we would have a cash bar either. We can't sell beer or give away free beer, but people are free to.
Totally in jest, but it does increase attendance.
So are you saying like May 1st, May 15th, May 29th?
I was thinking maybe May 15th for the first one, May 15th, May 29th, and then maybe June 12th.
So once you settle, if you can give us a little bit of a elevator pitch to get people to attend, happy to help propagate that. So Carrie's help or whatever. I think I'm happy to cheerlead for the attendance that evening. I'm sure the board is too. So.
We'll try to have an outline more descriptive than what's in the memo tonight, just to show what type of topics we're going to cover at those sessions and how one will flow into the next. I also hope to have, I mentioned at the end of the memo there, some informational sheets that I'll have available at each meeting for people to take away. Can't guarantee I'm not going to run the copier depending on attendance, but the goal is to have those kind of one-page fact sheets on larger school finance topics for people to digest at their own leisure.
Anything you can do to help the messaging be consistent? Well,
sorry?
Anything you guys can do to help us propagate the message consistently so that
Yes.
we're all saying the same thing?
Yes, and we'll work on that ahead of scheduling so we can send that communication.
We're very happy to help if we can.
Can I ask a question? So the last time we had the referendum, we had these report out sessions, and they were just that, is what it felt like. They were just report out sessions. There was a presentation with a lot of information that in my opinion, was very high level for some of the folks at the meeting I went to was in the room.
Okay.
I was under the impression this was more like a back and forth, where it wasn't just you're going to get up there and present a whole bunch of data and then people leave the room. I thought it was going to be a back and forth. Am I misunderstanding?
No, you are correct. That is the goal. But I do want to make sure that the topics we're covering create that dialogue or at least generate questions on the topics we're discussing instead of a pure open forum. That way we can structure the meetings that the topics flow into each other if you attend the whole series.
But if you're unable to attend the whole series, then you lose out on that part of it.
Not necessarily.
No, I'm saying, but like so if you can't, so if you didn't get to the first one, all I'm saying is it was, to the way I hear a focus group and the way I've seen it before is it's a collaboration of people in the room and back and forth about how we get the community to back a referendum because it's the best. But if we just fill their heads with a lot of data and they get confused or they're overwhelmed, do you lose out on that in those first two sessions? And then the third one is where it seems like the way you get more of the meat and potatoes, and now you've lost some folks. I'm just putting that there. I'm missing something.
As we talked about in the finance committee, one of the goals was really, especially in the first meeting, was really just to talk about the landscape. So to try to create a baseline of information for people to just say, hey, we just want to give you the lay of the land. Tonight we're just going to talk about the lay of the land. Here's some data that supports kind of where we're at today, and in the history of things and where this started, where we are now. And when I say we kind of globally, but statewide. And then as the meetings go along, drill into further things. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but really The first one is just kind of laying the land, and so the opportunity to have kind of that town hall, hey, on slide 3, I have a question, can we go back to that? That type of environment would exist, but really just in that first meeting, some foundational information, and then the nice thing, people back in like, hey, I really thought about this a lot, having the opportunity to go back in, and I'm gonna watch the video from the meeting, so I wanna hear that part over again, but really broad foundational information, especially in meeting 1, because the idea of, we're gonna give everyone kind of the even playing field of here's where we're at. And at that point, it's easier for people to ask questions when they know what they don't know. We just want to try to eliminate the best that we can, not knowing what you don't know. And so really in the first meeting, kind of covering, like, let's just say the lay of the land. This is kind of where this started back in the 1990s. This is how we got to where we as a state are today, and then drill further down into those as those go. But yeah, to your point, really just describing where are we at in the first meeting, where are we at, what's going on here, because at that point people will ask more questions that have more background behind them, and again, eliminate the opportunity for not knowing what we don't know as a group.
And the intent is not that it's information sessions where people show up and get information and then go home. It really is a community focus group where we dive in with the folks who are there on what our current situation is, what's the situation across the state, and what are some potential solutions to it, and what comfort level people have with different potential solutions.
Because that's what I thought, like what you're explaining, but what I'm reading is not exactly what I'm hearing. Like, that's just how I'm reading it. So I'm just concerned, because if we do what we did the last time, I'm assuming we're gonna have the same exact outcome. So when you have people come to a focus group, those are the people that are like, I'm not gonna vote for it, prove me wrong. And that's the people you're trying to get to, in my opinion. The people that are like, yeah, I'm good, let's do the referendum, in my opinion, aren't the ones, you want to bring them, yes, to encourage others, but the ones you're trying to reach are the ones that are like, I never vote for it. Show me why I should. And that's what I want to make sure we don't overwhelm them with data and they walk out and then never come back to 2 or 3.
No, my goal is to frame complex topics in ways that we can have a dialogue about. To your point though, would it be difficult for someone to come only to session 3 and have no idea what was discussed in sessions 1 and 2? They would certainly be at a disadvantage because the group at that point has had a longer dialogue about these topics. That doesn't mean I'm going to ignore a question for someone who didn't attend sessions 1 and 2. But more engagement throughout the process will be more helpful in the long run as we try and present potential scenarios and possible solutions.
Because the intent is that this group is then going into the community and talking to other folks about why they should support it. Is that not the
I think
intent?
it's that the way that you phrase that is jumping the gun a little bit, because there isn't a decision made yet on if there's going to be a referendum in November. So I think the intent of this group is to help educate folks and get feedback from them about whether there should be an operating referendum that comes to the voters in November, and if so, what could that look like?
Okay. So then there would be technically maybe a step after this if a decision is made. If there's a decision made not to, then it would be the end. If there's a decision made, then it would be more of a broader communication as to why that happened. And if that was, okay. All right, so that makes more sense. Sorry, I thought this was the one if we were going to engage the state. Okay, well, I understand. Thank you.
So to confirm, there may be a meeting 4, possibly 5, if the information is still over, we needed that extra time.
We could certainly possibly, yes.
Yeah, this is a working plan, so if we get input from folks and there's a desire for more meetings or a desire for additional information or additional time for conversation, we want to be flexible to meet those needs.
So Ross, I don't think that'd be your job. Maybe a suggestion would be, let's all work really hard to get people there so we got people to talk to.
Yes.
First thing, that's number one. Maybe a quick survey at the end. You can email everybody and just get feedback and see for the next meeting if there's something that needs to be re-massaged or gone back over. It might be a quick way to keep it moving forward. So.
Yeah. All right, anyone else? Very good, thank you, Ross. Stay tuned, I guess, is the best advice I can give folks. Okay, that rolls us down to miscellaneous. Thank you, John, for your summary there of the committee meeting. Miscellaneous A is our staffing report. It's in board docs. We need to review.
I move to approve the staffing report as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Rick's motion is seconded by Dave to approve our staffing report. Are there any questions on it? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Staffing report is approved. B is gifts and donations.
I would move to approve the gifts and donations, including you, Terry Lee. Terry left. All right, I would move to approve the gifts and donations, including Terry, with gratitude.
I'll second.
Thank you. Dave's motion is seconded by Tracy to approve our gifts and donations with gratitude of the board and the district. Are there questions on those? I hear none. All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. Meeting dates. Mr. Donovan, what do you got for us?
A couple different things. We posted it, and it's not a formal meeting, but tomorrow the election results will be canvassed, so that we're required to post that. So that will take place tomorrow, and then that all becomes official. Our next regularly scheduled school board meeting is on 2 weeks from tonight, on Monday, April 22nd, at our regular time at 6:30 here. I do want to, I talked about it earlier, but preview that in May. We have the second Monday is May 13th. And then we're looking at the fourth Tuesday is May 28th for our 2 board meetings in May. And a work session with Shayna Lewis on Monday, May 20th. We have a staff advisory committee meeting this week on Wednesday, April 10th at 4 p.m. Here in the PDC. We have an HR committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, April 17th at 3 p.m. in the first floor conference room. And we have our first session of negotiations with the Milton Education Association for next year's salary and increase on the changes to the base wage. That's on Wednesday, April 17th at 4 p.m. right after the HR committee meeting.
Very good. Questions on the dates? All right. I have 2 other little pieces of business to get to before we do. We are proposing an executive session tonight, so before we get to that. First of all, every one of you astute attendees noticed our meeting formats or our layout is a little different. So while I won't take any credit for that, that goes to Stephen and the B&G folks for changing the arrangement. And certainly a shout out to them and to Carrie Kleba, whose job is to record and capture the content of our meetings and so forth. So any changes impact those 2 folks the most. So I won't take any credit for it. I will take the blame if this is not good and we end up crashing and burning or moving backwards or whatever we end up doing. I will take that. But this is a suggestion of mine, actually a number of months ago, and it had never really risen to the top of the list or whatever, but really driven by an efficient drive or a goal of mine to be more efficient with our use of our space. I think I can tell an improved acoustics in here. It's a little easier to hear folks, and that was certainly one of the main goals. And to get the board in a little bit more of an interactive format so we can all see each other to engage in dialogue and whatnot. So that's sort of the behind the scenes work that happened to change our layout here. So if you don't like it, let me know. Second piece, John, you stole a little of my thunder, but as all of you know, we have a new board member coming on board at our next board meeting. So we will see Annette and welcome to you, and we'll look forward to that. We're going to say goodbye to one of our current board members, only temporarily, because we're going to see him at all these committee meetings and finances, et cetera, et cetera. So to really echo what John alluded to and to formally recognize it, if you want to get up, David. Here's a certificate. This comes from our friends at WASB, our Association of School Boards. This is a certificate of commendation presented to Dave Holterman in recognition for your service to the children in Wisconsin Public Schools. It gives his dates of board service, signed by the WASB President and Executive Director. So I would like to, on behalf of the board, present this to Dave and thank him for his service on the board. Very good. And my personal thanks too. Dave has been a very, very hardworking board member. Okay, and as I mentioned, pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985 sub 1 sub E and 1982 sub 1, Those statutes concern deliberating or negotiating and purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And the topics tonight are real estate transaction strategy for negotiations with the MEA. I would need a motion as such.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Rick's motion is seconded by Dave. Polling the audience, Rick or Ed?
Yes.
And you're voting in favor of going to executive session, I'm sorry. And Jennifer?
Yes.
And Joe is yes, and Rick?
Yes.
And Tracy?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
And Dave?
Yes.
That is unanimous. Thank you, folks, for joining us. We are not returning to open session. Just FYI.